Hey guys, welcome to the Active Fantasy Football Week 3 recap, starting off with E.T. Stole My Bike versus Damn Daniels. With Damn Daniels coming up with an incredible upset, 151 points to E.T. Stole My Bike's 134. Thanks to Caleb Williams? Who would have thought I would have said that, putting up 40 fantasy points on the day as the best quarterback in the whole league for Week 3. And it also looks like he may have won the trade with Emeka Egbuka putting up 13.4 and Quinshon Judkins putting up 16. However, Josh Allen and Jonathan Taylor tried their best to keep this team in the game, putting up 28 fantasy points, and Jonathan Taylor once again looking like the best running back in the league, putting up 35 on the day. Next up, we have Bear Down versus May the Force Be With Me. With May the Force Be With Me putting up 153 fantasy points to Bear Down's 132. Unfortunately, Bear Down is still down 0-3 on the year, trying so hard to get his first victory. But unfortunately, he went up against one of the highest scoring teams of the week. Thanks to his Drake May putting up 24 fantasy points, Jackson Smith-Njigba looking like the next great wide receiver to come out, Christian McCaffrey, literally the entire 49ers offense still, and Jordan Mason still looking like he plays for the 49ers, taking over for Christian McCaffrey. And it's crazy. He had a ton of players going off on this game. Max Crosby at the end of the game ended up going crazy and ended up getting 12 points whenever he only had like 2 points at the time. And then he had the great performance from Tampa Bay, putting up 22 fantasy points. Next up, Shopple Show versus Lights Camera Ashton, with Shopple Show looking like the team to beat in the league. Once again, getting another blowout victory, putting up 149 fantasy points. Thanks again to Lamar Jackson, 33 fantasy points. Devontae Smith finally waking up, deciding to show up, putting up 18. Bijan doing what he does. Achan doing what he does. And it don't stop there. Seattle putting up a crazy 30 fantasy points on the week, just dominating the New Orleans Saints. It wasn't even close. However, unfortunately for Lights Camera Ashton, they had James Conner, who basically lost his leg in the game, putting up 5 fantasy points before he went out for the whole year, unfortunately. That was, I believe, one of their keepers. And then besides that, I mean, James Cook also looks like one of the best running backs in the league. But other than that, had a lot of duds on the field and unfortunately came out with the loss this week. Next up, Herbert the Pervert versus Team Smooth. With Team Smooth once again coming out with another victory, putting themselves easily in second place, still undefeated on the year. And thanks to some godly performances, like Kyron Williams once again putting up 19 fantasy points, Trey McBride still looking like one of the best tight ends in the league. Justin Jefferson, though, wasn't looking like his normal self, but didn't need to be this week, as they still got the victory. And then once again, Team Smooth finding the sleeper fantasy defensive player to sneak in at the last moment, who put up 20 fantasy points, as in Brian Burns. Herbert the Pervert will look to see if they can come back next week a little bit better, but at least if you're looking at the bright side, they might have won their trade, with Tyreek Hill and DK Metcalf being their highest scoring offensive players on their team this week. So always something looking forward to there. Next up, Cash Out Fantasy King versus Tom's Outlaws, with Tom almost scraping by to get the win. It was their only opportunity to possibly get a win this year, as their team, as we all know, doesn't look up to snuff, as in they barely had a starting running back on their team. Both of his running backs are not even starters on their own team, yet they're starters on his team. I think that tells us everything that we need to know about how his team is looking so far, unfortunately. But hey, Keenan Allen putting up 18 fantasy points back on the Chargers? Man, it just proves the Bears absolutely do not know what to do with players on their team. And then Cooper Kupp only putting up 4 fantasy points and a lot of upsets. But what is this? Hunter Henry putting up 27 fantasy points? Crazy. But unfortunately, thanks to some performances from Amon-Ra St. Brown, who put up 19 fantasy points, Kenneth Walker doing what he does, putting up 18, Jamar Gibbs going off for 26, A.J. Brown finally also waking up, showing up to the stadium with his gloves on and cleats on with 22. And Sam Darnold, putting up 21 fantasy points. So unfortunately, Tom could not get his first and potentially only win of the year. And that brings us to our next one here. Lambs to Slaughter versus Marcellus's team. With Marcellus's team pulling off the victory until Derrick Henry fumbles the ball at the end of the game, costing him 3 costly points. And as you see, that means Lambs to Slaughter comes out with the victory, 129 to 127. As you can see here, Jalen Hurts put up 35 fantasy points, carrying the team because CeeDee Lamb did a what? A donut. He got hurt early in the game. Ended up seeing if he could play with it. Nope, could not cut on it. Nico Collins putting up 23 fantasy points. Chase Brown, living up to his name Brown, putting up only 4.6. And that's not it. Chuba Hubbard putting up 9.3. It's fine. It's not what you want. It's lower than the projected score. And Tyler Warren didn't go off like he had been the last few weeks, but he's a rookie. What are you going to do about it? On the other end, they had Patrick Mahomes, who put up 14. Brian Thomas Jr. had 8.2. Puka Nacua with the 21 fantasy points. And then, of course, Derrick Henry only putting up 10 and losing 3 fantasy points. Unfortunately, getting that ball punched out at the end of the game. And that brings us to our final standings here. And there we have it. We have Shopple Show in first place, almost 100 points ahead of the second place team. Team Smooth, which is that second place team, also still undefeated, like we said, 3-0. Cash Out Fantasy, 2-1. Fourth place, Damn Daniels. Fifth place, May the Force Be With Me. Sixth place, Lambs to Slaughter at 2-1. E.T. Stole My Bike coming in at 1-2. Marcellus's team, 1-2. Ninth place, Lights, Camera, Ashton, 1-2. 10th place, Herbert the Pervert, 1-2. Bear Down, 11th place. And then finally, at the bottom of the barrel, is Tom's Outlaws. Tune in next week if you want to see the recap of Week 4.